Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to tell you a few things you need to know before you replace a transmission on a 2012 through 2018 Ford Focus or Ford Fiesta. And this one was actually a crazy one because this took me, well, I don't want to say like a few months to figure out because it wasn't like full time, but every now and then I would try to figure things out and I just couldn't get it running right. It would do a relearn and everything like that, and this car came in just like it sits. It's not wrecked or anything, and it's an interesting one because it would do a relearn, everything checks out, no codes, you start driving it. The first shift cycle, what I mean by that is 1 through 6, normal driving, it would shift fine, and then after that it would shift like someone's learning how to drive a stick shift. Like the clutch would just drop, the whole car would shake, and every single time I restart the car, it would shift fine for the first shift cycle, and then it would act up again. And I finally figured it out. So this car here has 80,000 miles or around there, and someone put a used transmission in it, and that was the problem. So what you need to know about getting a used transmission for a Ford Focus or Fiesta, they are the same but not. Like the actuators are the same, the TCMs are the same, but the programs are different. On a Ford Focus from 2012 through 2014 is the same, and then 2015 through 2018 is the same. That is on the Ford Focus. The Fiesta, it's 2011 through 2013, I believe, and then 2014 through 2019. TCM program is not the only thing that's different on the 2012 through 2014 and then 2015 through 2018 Ford Focus. It's actually different internally as well. The final drive ratio is different, so that is why I'm having issues with that silver Focus that you seen a few minutes ago. And I finally realized that. I'm surprised I didn't check it earlier, but when you buy a transmission for your Ford Focus or Fiesta, it's best to just match up the part number. And that's finally what I did, was I looked at the part number and it was for a different year. So someone put a 2012 transmission on a 2018 Focus. What happens if you put a 2012 transmission on a 2018 Ford Focus? The ratio doesn't match up. So the transmission bolts up, everything fits, everything is fine, but the TCM is still programmed to a 2018, so the ratio and the computer, it doesn't like it, and it starts freaking out because the speed doesn't match this and that, and the ratio is different, and so it just starts shifting like crazy. It's like sport mode, but the whole car jerks, and I'm sure some of you are having the same problem. So the ratio internally is different from 2015 through 2018 for, I'm guessing, MPG, because the RPMs stays lower when you're on the highway. And also same thing goes for Ford Fiesta. I'm sure they changed the ratio in there, so just make sure you match the part number when you get a used transmission. I actually ended up getting a donor car for this one. This is a 2017 here, and it obviously ran and drove because this thing was smashed and this whole thing is buckled. Like, there's no saving this car. This was a parts car only, so I bought it for engine and transmission only. So it's a 2017, so this is a perfect donor car for this. The part number matched up flawlessly. So when I swapped everything over, that thing drives fine now, and now I'm gonna do a relearn and then take it on another drive. If you do get a 2012 transmission with a TCM that's programmed to a 2012 and install it on the 2018 Ford Focus, it should work. Not 100% sure, but it should work as long as you don't reprogram the TCM to a 2018. As long as the TCM matches the transmission, it will drive fine. Of course, you're not going to get the awesome MPG, I'm guessing, as you would on the 2018, but the car will drive fine. So what I could have done is could have reprogrammed the TCM back to 2012 on this 2018, did it that way, but that's not how I do things. Wanted to get it right, make sure this thing's 100% before it goes up for sale. Another problem I run into all the time is when you get a used transmission, don't be lazy and take the clutch out and check the forks, because On this one, it obviously ran and drove. I mean, someone was driving it, the airbags blew, so someone was driving it, so the car was running. I took the clutch out and the bearings fell apart. So I don't know if it was from the impact or something failed, but I'm glad I did it because I would have been taking the transmission out on that one again, and I don't like to do things multiple times on the same vehicle. So I took it out, cleaned it up, reset it, everything's good. I replaced the bearing. I have a few laying around, so put a bearing in, basically got a new clutch. This thing only had like 60,000 miles on it, the car has 80, so it's a perfect transmission donor car for that vehicle there. Long story short, make sure your part number matches the transmission that you're replacing, because you're going to have issues and you're going to spend a few months of your life and trying to figure out what's going on. So do your research before you buy. If the transmission's been sitting outside, that clutch is most likely rusted shut, so you're either gonna have to replace it or clean it up somehow, which is hard to do because it's like a dual clutch and it's hard to clean it, especially if it's rusted. It can be done. I'm sure you could soak it in some stuff and this and that, but if it's too rusted, I would just replace the clutch. It's best to replace the parts for sure, and a lot of people argue with me like, hey, why don't you just replace everything? And that's the best thing to do, but people don't have $3,000–$5,000 to spend to replace everything. So I try to show how to save money, and a lot of people save money. So if you have questions on removing the transmission and everything like that, I have tons of videos on my channel, so be sure to check those out. But this thing is finally ready to go. I actually ended up taking the wheels off of that one because they're 17-inch. That's a SEL, this is a SE. So I'm gonna have to change the tire size with ForScan. And actually, I'm about to hook up ForScan and show you how to do a relearn, because again, I used a Launch 431 Mini in my previous videos, but that's an expensive scan tool to have, and there's no reason for people to spend that money if you're just doing one car. So I'm gonna show you how to use ForScan to do a relearn and how to reset the transmission. So all you need to operate ForScan is order one of these connectors for the OBD2. It's OBD Link EX. I got mine off Amazon. I think I paid like 50 bucks, maybe 60. I'm sure you can get it off their website or eBay or anywhere online. I'm sure these days it's not that hard to get things. So it's a 16-pin OBD2 connector. Then you plug that in into your OBD port. The other end is actually a USB, and you just need a laptop. I'm using a random gaming laptop. You plug that into the USB here, but then you'll have to go on Google and type in ForScan. It's ForScan, and download that. I already have it here up on the screen. I'm gonna go ahead, double click and open it. So then you go to the bottom left here and click that, and then it's gonna connect it to your vehicle, but you gotta have ignition on, obviously. So let's do that. Ignition is on, engine off. Click yes. So now it's asking if you want to, well, it's asking if the VIN is correct and all that. It's a 2018, so yes. So it's gonna go through all the modules and have a connection. And you can see all the green check marks. That means that there's no issues with those modules. If there was an issue, it'd be like an X, I believe, or one of these triangles. So now that it's connected, you can go over here on the left side and you can scan for codes, and as you can see, all the modules line up here and there's no codes anywhere, which is good. If you did have codes, you'd want to, I'll usually just take a picture with my phone and Google them later, or write when I'm doing this, and try to figure out what's going on. So then you want to go to the bottom here this guy. Click on that. This is where you have all your modules that you can edit and stuff like that. And then this little wrench, this is where you want to be. So you can do like reset all adaptations and all that. So since we replaced the transmission, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reset all. So once you choose that, you go to the bottom of the screen left over here and hit play, and it's asking if you want to reset all the relearn and everything. So you click OK. It's gonna take a few seconds. This is very easy to use, and I mean it's cheap enough to where it's affordable for anybody. Even if you have one car in your family or whatever, it's still affordable. And you could do so much more. You could edit things, you know, in a cluster, all the bells and whistles. So it says it's been completed, so you click back to service, and then TCM module reset, choose that, go to the bottom, click play, module reset. Okay, now you don't have to do this to do the relearn, but I do it anyways. So turn ignition off, click OK. So now it's doing the module reset. We just want to basically tell this car that it's starting from scratch, so it learns to the way you drive. And then you turn ignition on, click OK. Service procedure completed successfully. Then you go back to service procedures, and this is where you do the relearn. It's the TCM adaptive learning. So you choose that, you click play. It's asking a bunch of stuff, you just click OK. So there's a lot of things you can do here. So you can perform a transmission range sensor adaptive learning. That means that whatever you choose here, right now I'm in park, and on the dash it says park. So if you're in reverse, it says reverse. So if that doesn't read on your car, you most likely have to do this. And we'll just go through it. Just click OK. So basically right now I'm in park, and it says please set the gear selector in park, and I am in park, so I'm gonna click OK. Now it says put it in reverse, so I'm gonna shift it, reverse, click OK, neutral, click OK, drive, click OK, and then L or sport. In this case it's L for low. Click OK. So transmission range sensor is learned. No errors detected. OK. So now select park. Now it's just gonna confirm that they learned. So you just go through it again. Neutral, drive, and low. OK. Please set gear into park, and click OK. So now it confirmed. Ignition off. When you turn ignition off, it just basically resets the module, and it says wait 45 seconds. It usually doesn't take that long, and it basically powers down the modules, including the TCM, just so it can reset itself. Okay, so the next thing is you can verify the range sensor, which if you don't have a problem with that, you can just verify it without doing the relearn, but we already did that and verified, so we're good. So the next one down, number 3, is shift drum adaptive learning, and that's the next one. So you choose that and click OK, and then press and hold the brake, and just make sure you follow the directions. Don't skip anything or it's not going to work properly. So you click OK. It's going to do its thing. Now this takes a little bit. It goes through all the gears, make sure that You can hear it shifting back and forth. Shift drum is learned, no errors detected. So for example, if something internally was broken, one of the tabs or anything like that, then it would fail because the drum just spins non-stop, and then it doesn't know where it's at and gets confused, so it would fail. In this case, we're all good. Everything passed. So we're just waiting for the module to power down. And as you're doing this, make sure that all your accessories are off, like the radio and AC. You want to make sure that everything's turned off, just so you're not using, the extra voltage. Since you're not running the car, you're just going straight off the battery with just ignition on. So now turn ignition on, but do not start the engine. Okay. Alright, so next one is going to be the perform clutch adaptive learning. This is the important one. This is where it learns how much, or how much the clutch needs to be pressed for the thickness of the clutch and all that. So especially if you're putting a used or any transmission, or even if you just remove and reinstall the same clutch, you got to do all of this because it'll speed up your process of relearning, as it'll learn faster to your driving habits. Let's just put it that way. So you choose that, click OK, press and hold the brake pedal, click OK. Now in this one, it's actually going to have you start the vehicle at some point, so keep holding the brake. Through all these procedures, hold the brake down, make sure your e-brake is on, make sure the transmission's in park. It's going through all the gears, or all the options. It's deleting the storage, it's refreshing. You can hear it cycling and stuff like that, and it's gonna engage fork A and B, make sure they're moving freely. So now please run the engine and keep it idle. So you start the engine, make sure it gets to its idle point, click OK. Now holding brake down still, you want to press the gas pedal all the way to the floor, which is wide open, all the way down to the floor, and then click OK, and it's gonna engage clutch A and B and learn its points. So it's gonna get loud. I'm pressing the gas pedal to the floor and clicking OK. So now you just return to idle. Make sure it gets down to its idle, which is around 900, and then you click OK. Still holding the brake. Make sure the AC is off, make sure your radio's off, all your accessories are off. The engine's on still. Click OK. And now it's gonna go through its procedure. Takes about 30 seconds, but usually it doesn't take that long. And you'll hear the transmission shifting, like gear shift on shaft A is okay, so it's already learned A, it's doing B now. So then at the end it's gonna show you the clutch life in millimeters, and clutch A learned touch point is 11.12 millimeters, and clutch B learned touch point is 12.7, and the minimum is 6.0. So this is still a good clutch, transmission, everything. It's got plenty of life left. So you click OK, and then turn the engine off. Click OK. So now it's gonna power down again for 45 seconds. So now if it says fail for any reason and you just install the transmission, sometimes the car wants to be driven. So if it happened to fail, just take it on the drive. Make sure it goes through all the gears. Just normal driving. Don't floor it. Just normal driving. Make sure it goes through all the gears. Make sure it warms up to full temperature. Turn accessories off and then try it again. Sometimes that has to happen. But other than that, it usually goes through. And right now, after it powers down, we're going to be able to drive it and make it learn it's shifting again, and that doesn't take long, so I'll see you on the road. Oh, the last option here is you can test the clutch system, and you can do that. You can do any of these things without doing them in order. I just showed it in order because that's how it's best to do it, I guess, but you can just test the clutch, and what it does is you click OK, and it's gonna move your forks back and forth, make sure that they're working. It's gonna cycle everything inside the transmission, make sure everything is working properly, and that's all it takes. What's cool is you can hear all this happening inside the transmission, but you don't hear it when the car's running and driving. It's kind of cool. So I just went through the test cycle on the clutch, and everything passed. Now it's powering down. Now we can scan it for codes one more time, make sure nothing popped up, which if it did, then none of this would pass. So scan it for codes, you can clear the codes again and take it on the drive. And most of the new scan tools will have these options as well, but you know, they're more expensive because they have multiple things. So I think ForScan is the most affordable, plus you could do so much more. Like I said, you can go in there and change some things around, and you know, and I mean, you can't do everything with ForScan, but you could do a lot, and it works on any Ford. So let's check DTCs one last time. Just gonna go ahead and reset cycle ignition. Biggest thing is make sure you follow all these steps, because it may not work otherwise. So as you can see, no codes in any modules, and that's what I call flawless. So you just want to do some normal driving and let the TCM learn its shift points, and you're gonna be amazed how smooth it shifts. You can't even feel it. If everything is working properly, the forks are lubed up and cleaned up, this thing drives like so good. These transmissions are actually pretty good, and all of these cars have launch control. So if you hold the brake down at the red light, push the pedal to the floor, it revs it up to like 1500 RPM, and then you just release the brake, it'll launch the car. And maybe that's how these cars need to be driven, just so it cycles those forks, you know what I mean? Like, these cars don't like to sit, they need to be driven. I'm not saying abuse it, but drive it like it's a car, don't let it sit. So this thing is driving flawless, very happy with it. And you know, after you drive it, you can check for codes one last time, but if you have any issues, usually a check engine light will pop up. But shifted all throughout the 6 gears, and it's very smooth. You can't even feel it shifting. And once you drive it for a little bit, then you can drive it a little bit more aggressive and let it learn. So stay tuned, like and subscribe, and later.